Hi everyone, this is Tara Cantuni Shimoto, and today I want to talk about shame culture and how it contributes to the demoralization of our society and how neoliberalism contributes to shame culture. The first thing I want to do is talk about what is shame culture. So, shame culture is when you know whether you are good or bad by the way your community treats you, whether it honors or excludes you. This concept was created by an anthropologist named Ruth Benedict, who talked about the difference between a shame culture and a guilt culture. Now, in a guilt culture, you know whether you are good or bad by how your conscience feels. So, guilt culture is kind of like the internalization of your actions and whether or not you in your heart of hearts know that what you did was right or wrong. Shame culture is a culture where you are either included or excluded by who you are as a person. And oftentimes, shame culture involves humility and changing who you are as a person to try to fit into the community. And so these concepts contribute to the demoralization of society because our society is built on a neoliberalistic viewpoint. And what is neoliberalism? So neoliberalism is the concept that the harder you work, the more successful you are. It is wanting to try to stay away from government assistance. It is, a free trade government. It is, it's kind of a vamped up democracy. The problem therein lies with people who do not fit that societal mold of what is deemed appropriate, whether they are persons of color, or they are women, or they are members of the LGBTQ community, or they are disabled. These individuals are already at a disadvantage from the beginning. They will always have to work harder to meet the demand that neoliberalism requires of them in order to be successful or to be deemed successful in our society or to be deemed acceptable in our society. And so today I really want to talk about that and dig a little deeper into what that means and how shame culture really is causing our communities to fall apart, and how there are, of course, different communities within our society that are automatically shamed. Like I said before, women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, disabled individuals, because they don't meet that standard of what is deemed necessary to be successful, which is white, male, heterosexual, cisgendered, Christian. Not only, though, are these communities being shamed by the white male cisgendered heterosexual community, but they are also shaming their own. For my project, I did 3 interviews with incredible women in my life, and I went into these interviews thinking that they were going to talk about adversity that they've experienced in their lives from white male society. What I found was that these incredible women talked to me about the adversity they experienced within their own communities, within their own communities of color, within their own communities of LGBTQ, within their own communities of alternative relationship preferences. And that was really compelling for me, to experience that with them and to hear those stories, because oftentimes we hear about communities that are shamed because, or shamed by white society. And so it was really eye-opening to see that not only are these communities shamed by white society, but then in themselves they are shaming their own members. And I think it's important to remember that this is a systemic problem. It does not, discrimination doesn't discriminate, I guess you could say. So I want to share with you some of the some snippets of my interviews, and then we can kind of unpackage them and talk about what how these experiences have molded these women's lives, and how they then have felt policed by their own communities and by neoliberalistic white society. So for the purposes of time management, I just wanted to touch briefly on some particular points that I took away from my interviews. So the first interview that I did was with a Black woman who was raised in the South and was raised on a military base. And this woman I look up to very much. She is very well respected and admired within our community. And when I talked to her, I was expecting to hear about the racism that she faced and the adversity that she experienced in the South by the predominantly white community that she was raised in. What I found was that because she does not embody the typical beauty norms of the Black community, she has very thin legs, she does not have a lot of curves, and she has a straight nose, and her hair is much softer than typical African American hair. She was ostracized by her Black community. She was made to feel unattractive, unworthy, but also she was very aware that because of her looks, she was probably going to be able to fit in better and pass better in white society than some of her other classmates and other community members. And now she is very proud. She has always been very proud to be an African American woman, but she experienced a lot of shame because of what she looked like and because of who she was by her own community. And so I thought that was really it was really eye-opening to see that within a community that is often oppressed, there is oppression. My second interview was with one of my very close friends who practices an alternative relationship lifestyle. She is involved in the BDSM community, and she told me, that she has always felt like she needs to keep people at arm's length because she has never quite fit into any true circle. Even in the BDSM community, she is extremely monogamous, and a lot of members of kink culture are polyamorous, and so she has she has been discriminated against and made to feel not a part of that community because she is unwilling to be in a polyamorous relationship. Additionally, she, when 50 Shades of Grey came out, she, as well as many other members of her community, were shamed, but they were also it also became like a fad to be in a dom sub relationship, when in reality 50 Shades of Grey is not a dom sub relationship. It is an abusive relationship. And when that came out, her, as well as many other members who were predominantly subs, lived in fear that they would either never find another true healthy dom sub relationship again, or anyone that they did find on any of the online sites like FetLife or Kinkly would anyone who was self-described as a dom did not truly understand the dynamics of a healthy dom sub relationship. And so it was a very scary time for her, and she could not openly and safely practice her own sexual preference because of outside influences. In my last interview, I interviewed a very dear friend who is a queer Jewish woman who is married with a son with special needs. And what we mainly talked about was the idea of beauty and what that really looks like, and how it is across the board, whether you are queer or not, we all abide by the standards of what men find beautiful. And she mentioned that when she was younger, her father's side of the family referred to fat people as visual pollution. And I thought that was really, really heavy stuff, that how much shame would be wrapped around a statement like that, and if that was thrown at you. And she also talked about how her father let her know that he would let her know when he decided that she was getting too big. And I think that weight is a huge issue that as women, our bodies are policed constantly because of the size of them. For example, Black women who are heavier are even more often frisked by police officers than thinner Black women, or fat people in general are considered lazy and disgusting. And my last interview, that agenda was pushed on her from a very young age, and so she's always been very aware of her weight. And there was a time when she became unhealthily thin, but people in her community complimented her because of her weight, and that in and of itself caused her to feel shame because she knew that she was unhealthy. And so, women are our own worst critics, and to feel as though being fat is a bad thing, is unhealthy, is lazy, really contributes to eating disorders and anxiety and depression. And so, and that anxiety and depression were the reasons why she was thinner in the first place, when she was getting all of the compliments. So what I ended up taking away from all of this was that not only is there oppression from above in white society, and by white society, but there's also oppression from within. These sensitive populations that are continuously oppressed by white society then in turn oppress each other because they are stagnant. They are not able to succeed, and they are not able to grow because white society continues to oppress them and put in front of them impossible tasks to prove that they are worthy of success in America, which then perpetuates these stereotypes of welfare queen and gangster and the trans woman who wants to molest your child in the bathroom and not just use the bathroom, and Latino rapists and murderers that come across the border. All of this oppression can only end up fueling these sensitive populations in negative ways, which then they oppress each other. I just want to thank everyone for a wonderful class and really helping me open my eyes to more different points of view and different ideas of what needs to be done within feminism and what needs to be done within our communities to help lift us up instead of oppress us. Thank you.